Good morning everyone. So I hope you are able to see the screen which says quantitative versus qualitative. So today we'll be measuring sources of brand equity. So whenever we have to measure anything, we have to do research, right? So that research can be either qualitative or quantitative. Okay, so what is qualitative and what is quantitative? I hope you have you know this thing. uh, Quantity means whenever you have figures with you. Okay, when you are talking about numbers. Okay, how many numbers, how what was the, you know uh, how many people liked it. But quality may, you will be asking journal questions, you will be talking about their true feeling, not the numbers. Okay, they may be, numbers may be less, but then what, when they talk about their emotions and attitude towards the brand, what are their feelings? It is not about the numbers. Okay, so brand equity, I just, as I told you, we have to measure sources of brand equity. So to measure, there are two methods. One is qualitative method, the other one is quantitative method. Okay? So qualitative techniques are used to research and analyze brand association consumer has towards any brand. Which are the techniques? Techniques could be free association, or even asking question, or storytelling, or taking interviews, any type of things. Okay, now it can bring the true feelings that they have for the brand. That is called qualitative. Their true feelings, what they think about the brand, what are their emotions attached with it, how, what are their attitude towards the brand. When we talk about quantitative, it talks about uh, you know uh, techniques which are used to understand the brand awareness. How many people know about it? Recognition, recall, image, and responses. So this will give you numbers. This will not give you what they feel. Okay, so let's move ahead. Measuring sources of brand equity. So first of all, we'll be talking only about one. So there are two techniques I told you, qualitative and quantitative. So whenever we do research, always keep in mind research is always based on two techniques. One is qualitative, and the second is, which deals with the number, is quantitative. ठीक है, so for now we'll be talking about qualitative research techniques to measure the brand equity. क्या है उसकी पहुंच, what, where it stands. Okay, now qualitative research technique is a unstructured approach. Unstructured measure approaches here, कंज्यूमर का जो responses है, they are recorded. We don't know how many consumers, but we record their response towards a brand. So qualitative market research is aimed at understanding their thoughts, understanding whose thought? The thoughts of the customers, consumers, okay, and their feeling towards the brand, product, the concept, what they feel about the advertisement. So it is more to do with the feelings, not to do with any numbers. All right, okay. Now there are some techniques. There are some techniques with the help of which we can measure the sources of brand equity under the qualitative research technique method. Qualitative में कौन कौन से techniques हैं? I will write it down for you. One is FAT, then there is one more called TAT. FAT is free association test, and TAT means TAT. TAT means test apperception test. What is apperception? It's the mental technique by which a person makes sense of an idea by keeping by assimilating basically it to the body of idea which he or she already has in her mind, or which she or he already possess. So these are FAT and TAT techniques. Okay, I'll write it down for you. First is free association technique. Let me clarify this one. It is one of the simplest technique, and it is one of the most powerful also. I'll write it here. It's the simplest one. Let me change the ink because it is okay. It's the simplest one and the most powerful technique. But है क्या इसमें? ठीक है? It measures the brand equity by determining brand association with the help of free association test, which involves asking the consumers what comes immediately to their mind when they think of a particular brand. Okay? What comes to your mind when I talk to you about Mercedes-Benz? What comes to your mind when I talk to you about Chanel perfume? So that is something about their feeling, isn't it? They're not giving you any numbers. They're telling you about what they feel about that brand. Okay, like this technique, free association technique was developed by Sigmund Freud. He's a most famous psychoanalyst. Sigmund Freud. Freud's की theory तो आप लोगों ने बहुत सुना होगा ना. In many psychoanalytic tests, his theories are used. Many schools and colleges, they use this technique. Even corporate, they use this technique to understand the behavior of people. So this also, free association technique was developed by Sigmund Freud, and he's called the father of psychoanalytic theory. What is the purpose of this FAT is to get either written or oral information, whether you get it get the person interviewed, or whether you give the test to the person and that person writes something for you. Okay, so that basically you are getting either oral information or the written information from the customers about their true feeling without censoring what they think. What comes to their mind, they have to just reproduce it without censoring their thoughts and ideas. Sometimes when we try to censor, we keep some important information with ourselves, and then you cannot give the correct psychoanalytic test. So whenever psychoanalytic tests are given, they are always time bound, so that you don't get lot of time to think. What comes to your mind immediately, you will write it or you will speak. Because for anything that, whenever somebody asks you a question, and whatever comes immediately to your mind, that is the actual, perception of that thing in your mind. Actual, you carry that information, and that is the clear indication that you have whether you like that person or not. You must have seen in the movie Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara. So in that movie, there were 3 tests which were done. There were 3 friends. कौन कौन था? Farhan Akhtar, Hrithik Roshan, and then there's one more, Abhay Deol. So they were having a bachelor's party, but they were all going through something very something was a mess in their life. So they did psychoanalytic test with each other at different points of time in the movie. So when Abhay Deol was asked a question, they were like, test was given, they were given one word, and the second word was to be spoken by that person. So whatever comes, without giving any moment of thinking, without censoring your thoughts. So in that test, they were able to find out where the problem lies. So when you think for some answer and then give, that means there is something that you are censoring. That is the problematic area in your life. So same thing goes with the brand association and brand equity का जितना भी है हम लोग कर रहे हैं ना, this thing to measure the sources of brand equity. So here also these are some tests which reveals the cognitive connections that underlie perceptions and the meaning, their memory, languages, reasoning, motivation. So all these things, they come into play once you get into that test. Okay, what comes to your mind when you think of Rolex watches? Okay, so whatever word that will come to the mind of a consumer will be the quality that he associates with that brand. You getting my point? So what do you think of Surf Excel? What do you think of any other brand like Kelvinator refrigerator? So whatever that comes to your mind without you, when you're not giving much uh, time to yourself and utter a word, that is the quality that has gone deep in your mind, in your psychic, about that brand. Okay. So here also Sigmund Freud is telling us that we can do the Rolex, we can do this test where you ask, what does Rolex mean to you? What does Rolls Royce mean to you? What is Mercedes Benz? So these are the types of free association test. This is called free. You are associating a certain brand with your feeling, innermost feeling. Got it? Now let's move on to the next point, that is projective technique. It is also on the similar line. Projective techniques are also indirect method. Let me write it for you. Where is the pen? Okay, sorry. They are indirect method. Here, again, that belongs to qualitative technique only. Here, these techniques allow researchers to tap into consumers' deep motivation. So here you will not be asked about a particular brand, but they will ask you, um, which car do you think when when you think of having a long drive with your girlfriend? Here again you are, that is your motivation, belief, attitude, and values. So projective techniques are useful because people tend to have limited understanding of their own behavior. हमें पता ही नहीं है कि हमारे अंदर क्या है, पर जो साइकोएनालिटिक्स ये टेस्ट होते हैं ना, दे आर वेरी वेल मेड टू टेक आउट आर इनर डीपर फीलिंग्स. ठीक है. Also people have sometimes difficulty in understanding what is their motivation, what will motivate them to, what are their innermost desires. So it's not easy. You must have never thought of it कि what actually drives you crazy, what makes you work hard. If you are lethargic, if you have no motivation, why is it that? And why suddenly on some days you feel very excited? So brands, they definitely hire these types of testing techniques to understand the psychic of the consumer. All right. So while asking direct question, when most of the time direct questions are asked to the consumer, sometimes market researchers, they want to investigate their deeper feelings, deeper values, deeper belief. Got it? So projective techniques and tests, they are again deep rooted in clinical psychoanalytic tests. Okay. These tests are also done for those people who have got some problem in certain areas, in certain behavioral problem or psychic problems, schizophrenia and narcissistic personalities. These types of tests are done for that purpose also, but these tests can also be done for understanding what they feel about certain issue, certain brands, certain social beliefs, and about their role in the society. So many things. These tests can have varied usage. Okay. So projective techniques जो है ना, clinical psychoanalytic test में एक test होता है, that is called Rorschach test, which I have also done. I've done it last year, or I think so. So it's a test, it's a most famous projective test, and it basically was very popular in the early 19th century. It was developed by Rorschach. He was a famous psychoanalyst. And Rorschach ink blot test. And, in this, you are shown multiple uh, sheets, or you can say figures, one by one. Ink blot test होते हैं. Ink blot में means by just looking at that, you will not be able to uh, find that it is a picture bit that is like that is key human figures are there, but they are ink blot. Ink ko they have put the ink on a paper, and then those that paper is folded and then opened. So whatever ink has made some figures, so that person has to speak on that कि आपको क्या दिख रहा है इसमें. ठीक है. So the Rorschach ink blot test involves the use of ambiguous images because they are not real images. They are just ambiguous. But आपको उसमें से हो सकता है आपको कुछ बटरफ्लाई दिख रहा हो, आपको हो सकता है उसमें कुछ ड्रैगन का पिक्चर दिख रहा हो. So these are ink blots. So individual, each and every person is asked by the psychologist to specifically tell us कि what do you see in this picture, आपको क्या नज़र आ रहा है. So that is their inner things that comes out. जो आपको दिखता है, आपके जो beliefs हैं, we don't even know, because when I gave the test I never knew that I had this type of personality. So even if you are all right, you feel you don't have any psychological issues, you must go to understand your personality. ठीक है. So for these, so these types of tests are done for understanding the psychic of the consumer also, because we are in a process of understanding, measuring the sources of brand equity. ठीक है, कि कितना है वैल्यू उनके माइंड में उसका ब्रांड का. ठीक है ना. So now next point is so important projective techniques कौन सी हैं. जो मैंने आपको फर्स्ट बताया, वर्ड एसोसिएशन टेक्निक. हियर वन वर्ड इज स्पोकन. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इफ आई से पिलो, what comes to your mind immediately? You have to, without a wink of an eye, you have to give an answer. Okay. If I say bathroom, you have to just say the next word immediately. If I say garden, what comes to your mind? If I say Switzerland, what comes to your mind? So these, they will give you around 50 words, around 20 words, and then they will do that analysis कि what are your deep rooted thoughts, how your personality is molded. Because जो आपके अंदर deep rooted है, that will definitely come out in this test. It is you, even if for one or few words for which you will take some time, that means these are the areas of concern. You need to work on that area. That means there is some problem associated with that. Okay. So word association test का मतलब है an individual is given a clue or a hint and asked to respond to the first thing that comes to his mind. ठीक है. The association can take the shape of a picture or a word. Okay. Now there can be many interpretation of the same thing. How you interpret depends on your take on that. A list of words is given. Interviewers records the responses, which reveals their inner feeling of the respondents, and then the frequency with which any word is given a response, and the amount of the time that elapses before the response is given. These are important tools. These are important criterias which are noted by the researcher. ठीक है. For example, out of 50 respondents, 20 people will associate the word black with African, fair complexion. So ऐसा होता है. Okay. So that will reveal your psychic. Okay. Now next is completion test. Here it is also almost on the same sense, that in this the respondents are asked to complete a incomplete sentence. Okay. Here it will whatever answer that they give will reflect their attitude and their state of mind. Again, it is also on the same line, but here it is the sentence completion. Now construction techniques में क्या आ जाता है? Here a picture or is shown to the person whose test is it to be taken. then they are asked to write something or talk about it. That means you are constructing something. An image is given, you have to talk about it. You have to construct a story relating to that. Okay, the initial structure is limited, they will not give you full. Okay, now, and it is also not very detailed. Got it? So इसमें को हो सकता है there are two people who उनका black shadow दिखाया है, and those two people are shown as if they are arguing. ठीक है? Now you have to complete it with the dialogue. So whatever dialogues that you will write will also tell your inner feelings. Some people may be very, very soft in writing the dialogue. Some may use abusive language. So if you are using abusive language, that means you are exposed to it. So here we are not talking about the psychoanalytic test. Our aim is to measure the brand equity. So उसमें the tests के questions will be based on that. कि आप two people arguing will not be the test given to the person whom we want to know from ki what do they think of the brand. Here the pictures will be different. Like for example, one person carrying a black shadow of a person who's carrying a bag, grocery bag in his hand, and then there are so many things that are shown in the bag. So what comes to your mind? So ऐसा हो जाएगा related to the consumer point of view and brand's point of view. Okay, not related to your personal life. Got it? Because same test can be used for personal problems also, same test can be used for social problem also, but same test can be used for understanding the brand equity also. Got it? Now next is expression techniques. Here in this type of test, the people are asked to express their feelings or whatever comes to their mind to other people when they think of a brand. Got it? So next point here is in the qualitative research technique. First was fact, second was projective techniques. Now we'll talk about ethnographic and observational approach. So what happens here, consumers can be observed whenever they are doing their shopping, whatever things that they test in the shopping mall, whatever products they are interested in, so their behaviors are observed, and fresh data is gathered by directly observing those consumers, and also by visiting those people's offices and their houses. So by observing the things around them, you understand their taste and their likings. So Procter and Gamble, they have been doing this type of ethnographic and observational approaches, because they take permissions from the consumers so that they can spend some time with them in their house or in their offices, and then they use these experiences by whatever they have observed by after spending such time. So these are the qualitative technique where they will try to produce qualitative output to the research that they have done with the consumer. Got it? Now brand personality. Brand personality is something to which a consumer can relate. An effective brand always increases its brand equity. You know it, right? So personality is a qualitative value add that brand gains in addition to the functional benefit that it has. So personality is a framework that will help a company or an organization to shape the way people think about that brand, about the product or services that they give. ठीक है ना? Now brand personality में there are 5 things which are very important. There are 5 main types of brand personality as per Jennifer Akers. Okay, model of dimension of brand personality I will show in the next slide. Here you will first I'll talk about excitement. Excitement में you have to talk about daring, trending, exciting things. स्पिरिटेड, कूल और यंग, ठीक है, इमेजिनेटिव, यूनिक थिंग्स, अप टू डेट, इंडिपेंडेंट, कॉन्टेम्प्ररी। सो कौन कौन सी चीज़ें आ जाती हैं इसके अंदर, जैसे वेरी एक्साइटिंग में आ जाती हैं आपकी रेड बुल का एडवर्टाइजमेंट हो गया, डिज्नी का हो गया, ओके। कूल एंड यंग में आ जाता है आपका MTV, ठीक है ना। कॉन्टेम्प्ररी में आपका केयर फ्री के एड्स आ जाते हैं, सैनिटरी नैपकिन्स के एड्स आ जाते हैं, ठीक है ना। नेक्स्ट वन हेयर इज सिंसियरिटी। नाउ सिंसियरिटी आपको मालूम है कि क्या होता है, हाउ मच यू नो sincere you are, how much real you are, how much honest you are, how much originality is there in you, okay, ठीक है ना। सो इसमें क्या क्या आ जाता है, LIC, SBI, they will always be very very sincere कि आपके साथ ऐसा हो जाएगा तो ऐसा है, they have to show that honesty. State Bank of India, they will always do that type of branding. Next is ruggedness. Ruggedness में क्या है, you have to be very tough and rugged. कौन कौन से ब्रांड आपके माइंड में आते हैं when you think of thumbs up, isn't it? Toughness, Harley Davidson, Mahindra and Mahindra Jeep. So ये सब चीज़ें आपके माइंड में आती है. कॉम्पिटेंस में क्या हो जाता है, how much reliable you are, how much intelligent you are, how much सक्सेसफुल यू आर. उसमें कौन कौन से ब्रांड आपके माइंड में आते हैं, माइक्रोसॉफ्ट आ जाता है, IBM आ जाता है, ठीक है. देन सोफिस्टिकेशन में कौन से ब्रांड आते हैं, दैट इज़ द हाईएस्ट वन. आपके पास शनेल की परफ्यूम होगी तो डेफिनेटली यू आर वेरी सोफिस्टिकेटेड. आपके पास स्वरोस्की क्रिस्टल्स के आपके पास ईयर स्टड्स हैं, डेफिनेटली यू आर अवेयर कि व्हाट मेक्स अ ब्रांड, एंड these are the highest level of sophistication, ठीक है ना. एंड और भी आ जाता है सोफिस्टिकेशन में, मीन्स अपर क्लास, वेरी ग्लैमरस, वेरी गुड लुकिंग, वेरी स्मूथ, a touch of a class, ठीक है. So let's talk about what are the comparison method. So here this is the fifth qualitative technique. Fifth qualitative technique is comparison. In this method जो कंज्यूमर्स हैं ना, दे आर आस्क्ड टू कंपेयर ब्रांड्स विद पीपल, एनिमल्स, प्लेसेस, थिंग्स, ठीक है. सो बेसिकली what you think for a person, place or thing is used to gauge your association with a brand, ठीक है. After such comparison the consumers are asked to reason for such association. क्यों आपके माइंड में, मैंने प्लेस बोला तो आपके माइंड में कौन सा ब्रांड आया, मैंने पर्सन बोला तो आपके माइंड में कौन सा ब्रांड आया, है ना. So they are asked why they have such association in their mind, ठीक है. So it helps in determining their point of view and how they associate a brand with things, place and people, animals, like that. So basically if I talk about Shah Rukh Khan, so what type of brand will come to your mind? If I talk about Amitabh Bachchan, what types of things will come to your mind? If I talk about Gujarat, if I talk about Switzerland, so which brand comes to your mind? So that is called comparison method. Okay, so let's free so कौन सा रह गया, yeah, that's it. So these are the qualitative research techniques which are used to understand the brand equity, to measure the sources of brand equity, ठीक है. Now I'll show you another slide which I told you. These are the American brand personality dimension. It is also called Big Five. यहाँ पे लिख सकते हैं, called Big Five. So sincerity, excitement, competence, sophistication and ruggedness. Sincerity में मैंने आपको जैसे पहले ही बताया, क्या माइंड में आता है सबसे पहले जब भी सिंसियरिटी की बात करते हैं. हमारे पास SBI बैंक होगा, दे विल ऑलवेज बी वेरी सिंसियर. LIC की पॉलिसीज़ होंगी, ठीक है ना. एंड एक्साइटमेंट से रिलेटेड कौन सी चीज़ें आती हैं आपके माइंड में, रेड बुल, देन ऑल दोज ब्रांड्स जो भी हैं, कोक का आ जाएगा आपके पास, ठीक है. रिलायबिलिटी, कॉम्पिटेंस से रिलेटेड कौन से चीज़ें हैं, IBM, देन अगर सोफिस्टिकेशन में आ जाता है तो आपका एप्पल इसमें ज़्यादा यहाँ पे आ जाएगा, IBM, देन माइक्रोसॉफ्ट, ठीक है। सोफिस्टिकेशन में आपका शनेल परफ्यूम आ जाएगा, मीन्स हाई क्लास, वेरी हाई, ठीक है। ऑडी, मर्सिडीज बेंज, रोल्स रॉयस, ठीक है। रगेडनेस में जो काफ़ी टफ है, थम्स अप, हमेशा उसकी एड्स ऐसी होती है ना, देन हार्डले डेविडसन, ऑलराइट। सो ये सब चीज़ें हो जाएंगी। लेट्स मूव अहेड, आई ऑलरेडी टॉक्ड अबाउट दिस स्लाइड। और सो नाउ क्वांटिटेटिव टेक्निक्स, लेट्स मूव टू द सेकेंड टेक्निक when we want to measure brand equity. Okay, as I told you, quantity means numbers, right? Quantities are, they are often the primary ingredient, you know, in tracking your studies that will monitor brand knowledge, structure of the consumer. कितना वो जानते हैं, numbers never lie, you know it. You may hide your feelings, you may hide what comes to your mind related to any brand, but if the figures are there, you do a big survey, you do a survey in a college, you do a survey in a locality, and people who's, you are asked whether you like this or that, so that way figures will not lie, figures will give you the correct picture. So awareness, here सबसे पहला term आएगा awareness. So awareness is related to the strength of the brand in memory, and it is reflected by consumers' ability to identify various brand elements. कौन से elements? लोगो हो सकते हैं, जिंगल हो सकता है, सिंबल हो सकता है, कैरेक्टर हो सकता है, what type of packaging is done, ठीक है ना, ब्रांड का नेम हो सकता है, whether they are aware or not, स्लोगन हो सकता है. Alright, so brand with high awareness are the brands which are very trendy, which are very popular, right? So brand awareness basically consists of brand recall, कि आपके माइंड में क्या आता है. अगर आपके सामने जिंगल बोल दिया, आपके आगे स्लोगन बोल दिया, are you able to recall that brand? Brand recall relates to consumers' ability to identify the brand. Okay, now with brand recall, consumer must retrieve the actual brand element from the memory, ठीक है ना. When given certain probe, कुछ भी क्यू दिया जाए, उसके बाद are they able to identify the brand? That's more important. So brand recall is more demanding. आपके मेमोरी का टेस्ट होता है उस टाइम पे, राइट. यू समटाइम आपके माइंड में नहीं आता है जल्दी से. इफ आई गिव यू दाग अच्छे हैं, सर्फ एक्सेल फटाफट आ गया, सो दैट मीन्स कितना स्ट्रॉन्ग है उसका प्रेजेंस. लाइफ इज गुड, तो LG का है. सो दिस इज कॉल्ड रिकॉल, हाउ यू आर एबल टू रिकॉल इट. ऑलराइट, हर एक फ्रेंड ज़रूरी होता है. इमीडिएटली यू आर एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड कि ये तो एयरटेल का था, राइट. सो दैट इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. नाउ surveys, website traffic, analyzing search data, then blog traffic, social media, likes, shares, comments, followers, quality of web visits. These are some of the effective techniques for measuring brand awareness, and these are all quantitative techniques because you will get the figures here, numbers मिलते हैं आपको, ठीक है ना. So this is related to awareness, ठीक है. So in short, recognition process requires that consumers be able to discriminate a stimulus, a word, object, image as something that they have previously seen. So brand recognition relates to consumers' ability to identify the brand under variety of circumstances. And this can, ठीक है, इतना ही बहुत है. Next is image. After we have talked about awareness, awareness is one of the first and most important step, in understanding the brand equity. ठीक है. So but this is not sufficient. Along with that, we need to have image also. Image of the brand is also very important. ठीक है. Got it? So brand image is basically the journal impression of a product which is there in your mind. ठीक है? Brand image is is your perception of the brand based on your interaction with the brand. So it can involve over time. आपने पहले कैसे सोच रहे थे, maybe after some time you change the perception. So it changes, it evolves over time. Okay? And it does not necessarily involve customers making a purchase or not. You may be a buyer of that brand, but may not be a buyer of that brand. But still you will have an image, right? So उनका क्या काम होता है, ब्रांड्स का काम होता है, दे डोंट हैव टू चेंज दैट इमेज सो फ्रीक्वेंटली. अदरवाइज क्या होएगा, बिकॉज पीपल हु आर नॉट बाइंग योर प्रोडक्ट may because maybe they have some different opinion about your product, but they have an image of you in their mind. So उनको brands को करना चाहिए कि they have to keep that image consistent, because those people who are not buying may not buy in the future also, because if the image keeps on changing. So brand image has to be consistent. After some time they may change their mind, from not buying to buying. But if the brand images keep on changing, then again they will have, they will be put in a certain dilemma whether to or not to go for this brand. ठीक है ना? So the businesses or brands, they actually spend a lot of time in making a brand personality, making a brand voice, making a particular positioning of the brand in the marketplace, and they have to keep it consistent. They don't have to keep on changing it. All of these contribute to the way customer interact with the brand and what they perceive about the brand. So what is the bottom line here? You have to be consistent with your brand image. For example, that for example, Apple का brand है. Apple has created a strong brand image. What is the image? In the minds of the consumers, that they are very innovative, they are very, they come up with something very extraordinary. And what is the culmination? उसका result क्या होता है? People, before the product is launched, people start building up a hype in their mind, and during the release date क्या होता है? आपको मिलता भी नहीं है प्रोडक्ट, इतना हाइप क्रिएट हो चुका होता है, राइट? सो दो दे आर वेरी एक्सपेंसिव. ये भी आपको मालूम है कि एप्पल्स के जो प्रोडक्ट हैं, दे आर नॉट वेरी ईजी ऑन योर पॉकेट. दे आर वेरी, आप सादा फ़ोन लो 15,000 20,000 में आ जाता है, और एप्पल का फ़ोन लो 40-50 से कम नहीं आता है ना. सो बट स्टिल दैट इज़ व्हाट दे हैव मेड, राइट? They have created that brand loyalty. There is an emotional connect with the brand that consumers, they relate it to. Similarly, Coca-Cola के brand में देख लो, you will find there is a consistency. Every time they don't change their brand image. Got it? Because they are not selling a product, they are selling you a lifestyle. Apple product से ज़्यादा एक lifestyle है. It's more of a show off thing. Coke, जब हालांकि it's a 20-30 rupees का चीज़ है, but still it shows you that you are a Coke fan. इतनी छोटी सी चीज़ के लिए भी उन्होंने, they have portrayed it that Coke is something better than any other drink. Thumbs up को रख लो, Pepsi को रख लो, Coke is Coke. ऐसे बनाया गया है उसको ब्रांड को, ठीक है ना? So they sell a lifestyle, they don't sell a product. So that is the image that they have created. And building a strong image and brand identity is not something that will happen overnight. It has taken a lot of years or a lot of hard work. It is measured in strategic interaction, knowing who the customers are and understanding their competitors, understanding the taste of the consumers. So it's not an overnight thing that was built. So image has taken a lot of time to be built. So it has to remain consistent. It cannot change, keep on changing. Alright. Now next and the third point here is brand response. Now, what is brand response? It represents the judgment and the feeling for the brand by the consumer. So, as per the customer based brand equity model, brand responses belong to the third category, but it is also one of the most vital, most important one. थर्ड कैटेगरी में तो है अवेयरनेस एंड इमेज के बाद, बट यू कांट इग्नोर दिस, राइट? Judgment and feeling of the people, consumer, sorry, judgment and feeling take into account personal opinion to understand how customer think and feel about that brand, whether it is based on their actual interaction or it is perceived reputation, what they think, whether they have not used the product but still they may have some ideas and perceptions in their mind. Got it? So brand response can be broken into 4 categories. One is actual or perceived, whether it is actually happened or they think. Second is created through a customer's measure of trust for a brand and its product. Second point says that created through a customer's measure for trust, how trustworthy it is. Got it? Then third point here is judgment based on the relevancy of the product, how relevant it is. Got it? How relevant is the product to each individual circumstances. All right. Next is customers deciding where one brand falls in comparison to another. So now customer decides the which word we can put it here. The customer gives the judgment. So customer judge or decides where this brand falls, okay, in comparison to other brands. So these are the quantitative techniques. So इसमें क्या होगा? They will be given 4 or 5 choices. So you have to give rating. For example, Coke हो गया, Pepsi हो गया, Thumbs Up हो गया, Fanta हो गया, and then you have to rate according 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? So these are all figures. Here we are getting all the figures. So that is why it is quantitative technique. So relevancy is also measured in terms of their preferences, trustworthiness, actual and perceived interaction के ऊपर भी you will be finding whether they what they think and feel about the brand, whether they had actual interaction or whether it is the perceived reputation of the brand. So these will give you all the numbers, not about their feelings in comparison to the other brands. So this is all about quantitative research technique and the qualitative. दोनों मैंने आज करा दिया है. In my next lecture I will be talking about brand